Today's video flip classroom is microeconomics, equilibrium point, shortages and surplus, floors and ceilings. Equilibrium point. You see a diagram right there on the left side of your screen. Equilibrium point is the optimum point in which the demand and supply curves meet. Now let's look at shortage and surplus. If you notice, underneath the equilibrium point is your shortage. That's in green. You have a shortage if it is below equilibrium point. Shortage means you do not have enough goods to meet demand. And we'll look at an example of this in a little bit. Above the equilibrium point in the red, you see surplus. You have a surplus if it is above equilibrium point. Surplus means you have too many goods to sell and can't sell all of them. Now let's look at our example of a shortage. Shortage is not being able to buy toilet paper during the COVID-19 because toilet paper companies could not produce enough toilet paper to keep up with the demand. The result will be empty shelves in the stores where toilet paper was stocked. And a lot of y'all might remember this. Your parents might remember it as well. All right, so surplus. Let's look at an example of a surplus. Surplus, the example of it is the amount of gas that was not sold from March 13th, 2020 to May 31st, 2020. Due to citizens in Georgia self-quarantining during the COVID-19 outbreak. The demand decreased, resulting in convenience stores not buying as much gas from the manufacturers, resulting in a surplus of gas. So your manufacturers had this surplus of gas they could not get rid of and had to store at the time. All right, for price floors and ceilings, just remember a couple of hints. You're going to reach down to touch the ceiling. Below the ceiling, you have a shortage. You reach up to touch the floor. Above the floor, you will have a surplus. As you see in the diagram right here, equilibrium point, the shortage and ceiling are below it, surplus and floor are above the equilibrium point. So the easiest thing to do, reach down to touch the ceiling, or I would use the abbreviation CD. That would be a good example right there. Reach up to touch the floor. Price ceilings. They're defined as legally established maximum price, enacted by governments when they fear the price may be higher than they desire it to be. And again, you can look at your diagram if that helps you a little bit as well. Again, the ceiling is below the equilibrium point. Example of a price ceiling is rent control. Rent control law is used in large urban cities like New York City to limit the amount of rent that can be charged or to limit the increase in rent from year to year. The purpose of rent control law is to keep housing prices affordable, so normal people can afford to live in the city nearer to their job or in part of the city where they grew up. When the price ceiling is lower than the market price, it results in quantity demanded in the market exceeding the quantity supplied. This causes a shortage in which there is more demand than supply. Excuse the typo on that slide. Two consequences of a price ceiling. Number one, creates a situation in which some of those who demand the good won't be able to buy it, despite the purpose of the price ceiling is meant to make the good more affordable and benefit the consumers. All right, number two, opens up incentives for an illegal market, which refers to sales occurring at an illegal price. All right, now let's look at price floors. Defined as legally established minimum price, enacted by governments when they fear the price may be lower than they desire it to be. Again, you can look at your diagram on the left about the floors being above the equilibrium point. Examples of a price floor are the farm products and minimum wage. When the price floor, is higher than the market price, it results in the quantity supplied in the market exceeding the quantity demanded. A surplus is created in which there is more supply than demand. Unintended consequences of a price floor is even though it is meant to benefit providers of a good or service, it creates a situation in which some of those providers won't be able to sell their goods or services. Now, due to this situation with the price floor, an insufficient quantity is demanded. So, number one, with farm price supports, the government has often stepped in to purchase these surplus products. Number two, with the minimum wage laws, a basic concern is although the minimum wage will help those who continue to keep their job, it will injure those who lose a job as well as those who are not hired or hired for fewer hours as a result of minimum wage. Okay, so there you have it. This is the end of our video flipped classroom lesson. Microeconomics, equilibrium point, shortages and surpluses, price floors and ceilings.